Hey everyone, Alan Schimmel. Welcome back to Techstrong Gang and happy Friday. We got a great way to send you off on your weekend. We got a cyber heavy show today, and we've got some cyber heavyweights to discuss stuff with us. Let me introduce you to our gang before we jump into anything. First of all, he is founder, he's CISO, just all around security guy. I happen to call him friend for a long time. My friend Fred Wilmot. Fred, how are you, man? It's good to see you.
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Fred, I apologize. I don't remember your company's name off the top of my head. Can you remind us?
You bet. The tech team. And the tech team's famous for automating what we think about static code for detection generation and data generation to test and validate, and really about bringing autonomous continuous validation and detection generation to the problem space of the ecosystem. So take your weeks and months and put it into the detect team platform and turn it into minutes and hours.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks, Fred. Hey, speaking of security, folks, they don't get any bigger than my friend Ira. Ira joins us from foreign shores today. Ira Winkler, how are you, man?
Just wonderful. How are you today?
I'm good, Ira. It's great to have you on here and looking forward to your always insightful and passionate comments regarding the
Oh,
world.
it's good to be part of the formal gang today.
Yeah, you're a real gang member. Don't tell them that when you're coming back into the country. They're liable to send you to El Salvador or somewhere, or South Sudan. Speaking of, let's go over from South Sudan, though, to the Silicon Valley. Our Silicon Valley man on the street. Well, he's Silicon Valley royalty. Our own John Swartz. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good. Good to be here.
It's good to have you on. And then finally, I assume, are you still in a hotel room in New York City? Have they let you go back up to the suburbs?
I am leaving this hotel room right after this call.
All righty. He's our Chief Content Officer, Mike Vizard. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm well. I'm looking at all these ICE protesters outside in Manhattan.
Good. Well, they're peaceful at least, right?
There you go. And still get arrested. So who knows?
We could discuss that. I'm actually going to talk about that on a Shimmy Says episode. But let's not go there. It's early. Let's first start with this new AI.gov. It's coming. As you know, plans are a little murky. When does this administration ever give you anything that's crystal clear? But Ira, why don't you kick us off here? What do you think this is about?
So what it theoretically is about is having company or government agencies adopt AI models. It looks like, according to the article, if I read it correctly, they want to monitor AI use, which frankly sounds like such a noble cause and so brilliant and all that sort of stuff, and just sounds so obvious, and it's speciously obvious. Specious is the word that comes, I guess that might be the word of the day. Because when you look at it, what really needs to happen with AI? Because they say they're going to be a repository, according to the article, for AI models, which is theoretically nice. But in order for a large organization to actually make use of AI, they need to go ahead and be able to start to have the data in a format that they can pull in. Because in order to implement AI, you need data, and you need all the possible data you can get, because all the possible data you can get is what makes the better decisions that come out of the AI. Then you need to have the proper models, and the models need to be appropriate. The models need to be tested. The models need to be validated, and so on. And then you need to make sure that you're actually making the best use of the output of the system. And what it says is they're going to monitor how employees are doing it. I mean, gee, it's nice that they have an LLM, but in theory, you need to have so much more than a small focus group of people who are going to monitor employees and look at which functions. And yes, we do need somebody to go in with a consultative attitude to go to different government agencies and say there are AI models that would improve this process, this process, this process, this process, and so on. But without, for example, what people are missing is a chief data officer, as an example, that's going to standardize data formats so that all these AI models can pull it in and make use of the data. Because otherwise, it's kind of like human decision making. These models only make decisions based upon the data that they have, not all the data that's theoretically known and available. And that's a critical factor. Then, of course, we have to make sure that, because when you throw models together too quickly, you're not doing the validation, you're not doing the security, you're not making sure the right data is there, whether the data is clean, whether the data is murky. Alan likes the word murky, so I'll use that one. And I could go on for a while, but fundamentally, in concept, it sounds brilliant. In reality, it's much more complicated than the article seems to have that they realize, apparently, because there's so much more behind it. I realize high level article, but I don't see talk about data. I don't see talk about validation. Because if you, yeah,
So I use murky in the headline for a reason, and I sorry to interject, but this is a classic Trump plan. It's vague, sloppy, incoherent, incomplete. I think there's an ultimate goal here, and I think what they want to do ultimately is replace federal workers with AI. I think that's actually what they want to do. And what's telling to me is this was posted for a very short period of time, then it was taken down when it was discovered. So this AI.gov thing, I think the whole thing is basically an extension of what Doge has been doing, or what it tried to do.
well, I would actually just to go ahead and agree that that's part of the plan. That's part of the plan when anyone introduces AI, whether it's, Tesla, IBM, or whoever else we can bring up. But
But here's the thing. So TTS, which is the Technology Transformation Services group within GSA, the head of it is a former software integration engineering manager at Tesla, and he's a buddy of Musk. And he wants GSA to operate like a software startup with AI first strategy to automate much of the work done by federal employees. To me, it's just like, it's so patently obvious what they want to do. I don't know what the timeline is, because as we talked, Mike and I talked about this briefly yesterday, these guys changed their minds so many times. They could delay this. It's supposed to be announced July 4th, symbolically. By the time they come out with whatever they have, this is going to be like a tariff policy. It's going to be all over the map. It's going to be amended. It's going to be discarded. It's going to be revamped once they get the lobbying from the tech industry. It's just like a classic Trump plan.
no, we're in violent agreement, because I described it from the tech perspective. You described it from the big picture perspective, because we both agree either way, just from a fundamental tech perspective, that can I curse, Alan? But are you effing kidding me? Is the first thing that comes when you read this at a high level. And then from your perspective, it's like reading through the lines. What are they trying to do? And if I was an employee at GSA and I'm reading through the lines thinking they're trying to get rid of me, I would be like, good luck with that plan, because they don't even implement the plan well.
You do it a favor.
He's trying to get rid of their employees. I mean, they're trying to figure out a way to get rid of it with AI and become more productive. And these guys just want to do it. And guess who suffers in the end are the people who are served by the government, which is all of us.
Exactly. Yeah.
But guys, calling it a plan does it more justice than it's worth. Okay? It's an aspiration. That's what you call these things. It's an aspiration. And the road to hell is lined with the best of aspirations. Okay? Let's call this what it is. And what's going to happen? If Elon kisses his ass, can the guy at GSA stay there and start implementing this? Or if Elon's on the outs, are we going to purge all of Elon's buddies in some kind of Stalinist knee-jerk reaction? We're going to have show trials right after we arrest Gavin Newsom. I hate even wasting time talking about what this government wants to do with these plans. I sent Mike something last night. The $500 billion Starlink plan. Nothing has been done. not SoftBank. Yeah, SoftBank hasn't even started raising the money for that. Oracle hasn't done anything. The CEO said it yesterday on their earnings call. This is the same BS we hear over and over. You could bullshit some of the people some of the time. Donald Trump has bullshitted this country for too many years, and we shouldn't even give this the oxygen that we're giving it today.
I think we should point out what they're trying to do, though. I mean, this is like when we're talking about.
We're all trying to do. John, every CEO in America is trying to cut heads.
Openly about what they want to try to do. And we just can't ignore it because they have some very devious plans, I think, in my opinion.
They do, but it's no more devious than private industry. Let's be clear. Why do all these CEOs rub their hands and start putting all this money in AI? They want to cut heads.
But Alan, here's what I hope we're here for. First off, yes, there's a big political issue. But second, and again, I keep coming down to the fact that we need somebody to not just say, hey, this is bullshit. This is a political attempt. This is just covering people up and just making it seem like some rosy thing and everything like that. Because I think fundamentally, I'm just trying to say, I completely agree with you, Alan. Don't get me wrong. But to me, the fundamental issue is this is so, people need to understand how poorly implemented it is, even as a plan, because too many people are taken in by a grand claim like, who doesn't want to cut government waste? You know, who doesn't want to cut trillions of dollars? Well, it wasn't trillions, it was a billion. But we need to explain why it's also bad.
Ira, you
That's
know the old saying, fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you? The American public, right, the American public's been fooled 100 times over with this nonsense and this administration.
And here's why here's why I'm just trying to stick to the technology, because too many people hear these claims and then they're like, the claims without data, and even most people don't care about data, I admit that, but the claims without data make it seem like, oh, they're just criticizing everything. And so what I'm trying to say, why is this fundamentally bullshit? It's fundamentally bullshit because there's no data czar. It's fundamentally bullshit because they are implementing a piece of a plan. If they have a plan at all, they're identifying a piece of a problem that doesn't have the breadth that it needs to actually be successful, and is going to ruin things if they go ahead and try to pursue it, because it's just going to be such a half-assed implementation because they don't have anything else. And yes, everything you said could be the same. Half the country wouldn't care about what 30% of the country wouldn't care about what you're saying. Another 30% just are like, I just want to live my life and I don't care. And then another 30% are pulling their hair out saying, I don't, but really what the mid 30% at least needs to hear is this is a fundamentally flawed plan, not from a political perspective, but from a fundamental technology cannot be implemented perspective, the way it is pulling together, and you can't pull this together quickly. I'll leave that there.
I would agree that the plan is flawed, but this is going to happen. And it's going to happen not just at the federal level. It's going to happen at the individual state levels. It's not going to matter whether it's a blue or a red state, because tech marches on. I don't think that this administration probably has the wherewithal to execute this in any kind of timely fashion. So it'll probably take them to the end of the next term to kind of get to that, maybe even remotely close. But, as to Alan's point, this is the way of the world and all this stuff is going to happen. And there is massive amounts of data, and everybody has a horror story about some engagement with some government agency that could be better. That's the positive side of it. On the negative side, Alan, there's an opportunity for a lot of abuse here, right? Because I can also create AI to do all kinds of nefarious activities that maybe I don't want the NSA and the CIA doing on U.S. citizens. And I don't see anybody talking about how that's going to be managed or what oversight might be in this thing. So I think there's a lot to go wrong here too.
That's the thing that I worry about. Right. So if the Supreme Court gives DOJ access to Social Security systems, are a fairly embattled, fraudulent platform. And we also know that a number of these models are already in use in private organizations, and they struggle with the ability to manage the guardrails of what types of intellectual property and or sensitive data can be put in or taken out. And there's a hiatus on the accountability for AI through the state legislative bodies. So now you have an unfettered access for N number of and X values of all of the types of models and platforms and engines to be provided by folks who are less than caretaker stewards of the data, and probably are not the level of competency of an AI startup organization from a technical perspective. All collide together is a perfect storm.
That I'm glad you mentioned, Fred, the Supreme Court decision. That's really important. And the thing is, the difference between this scheme or half-assed plan or whatever initiative, whatever we want to call it, is these guys are going to struggle with it, but it's happening with NVIDIA, Salesforce, you name it. These companies are all going to follow through, and they're going to be much more efficient in how they implement.
Absolutely. Look, this AI Gov thing seems like something Wile E. Coyote orders from the Acme catalog. Okay? But there will be, to Ira's point, there is a valid reason to want to do something like this. And there is ways of doing it better. And there will be companies and local governments and other entities that do it better. It's just, did you ever go, when you were in school, they used to give you a group, you had to break into groups and you had to do a report on stuff. And there was always 2 or 3 kids in your group who were the schlep rocks and didn't do the work. And then 2 days before the report was due, you had to do everything because this moron was too busy getting stoned or whatever they were doing in high school or college. Well, that's the life we live here in America.
You sound a little bitter about that one.
Hey, I've been the guy who had to do the report the last day because everyone else. It wasn't that I wasn't stoned, but I had to go do it. So, but I always thought those people would never be in charge of the government. Who knew Beavis and Butthead is president and vice president here? Anyway, let's take a break. I had enough of this one. We're going to come back. Let's talk about shift right a little bit. You're watching Techstrong Gang.